Firefighters from this station in the town of Pripyat were the first to arrive on the scene of the accident at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Not knowing what they were dealing with, all of them were exposed to a deadly dose of ionizing radiation. Few survived. The first liquidators sent to a Moscow hospital for treatment died within 2 weeks. The stories of firefighter Vasily and his wife Ludmila, who feature in HBO's Chernobyl series, are based on real life, from bribing hospital personnel to shoes in the wife's hands at the funeral in Moscow, where Vasily and still lies under a thick layer of concrete. His widow now lives in Kyiv. According to different estimates, 4,000 to 10,000 people died as a direct result of the radiation effects following the nuclear disaster. More than 70,000 sustained life-changing, long-term side effects. The first victims with acute radiation poisoning were brought to this clinic. Their uniforms were taken to the basement, where they remain to this day, still dangerously radioactive. From this bridge in the series, the locals gathered to watch the fire at the power plant near the so-called Bridge of Death. We met Alexei Bereus, who was an engineer at the Reactor 4 facility at the time of the accident. He was chosen as the one to attempt launching one of the remaining water pumps of the reactor that was blown open.
Там були дуже високі дози радіації. От після цього я повернувся на
The levels of radiation in these were immense. I got back to my desk and began writing everything down in my journal, and I felt such a burst of energy. I felt ready for anything. It felt like sky was the limit. That turned out to be something called radiation euphoria, a symptom of radiation poisoning. It passed after half an hour, and after that I started vomiting. Leaving the workplace, I took off my white uniform and saw something like a sunburn all over my body.
Now the Reactor 4 building is obscured by the new safe confinement, completed in 2016. However, most of the pollution occurred during the first days and weeks following the accident. The safest area here is located within the power plant territory. It's a specially equipped bunker. These days it resembles the facility depicted in the Chernobyl series, but at the time, the staff say it looked very different. On the night of the accident, managers of the facility sat here calling all stations, trying to figure out what had happened.
The full picture became clear only after 4 or 5 hours at daybreak. That's when we could see with our own eyes what had happened. The level of radiation was so high that it was hardly even believable. I have to admit, I myself struggled to believe the readings.
So he admits he had to mentally prepare himself before watching Chernobyl on HBO. He says the series conveys the atmosphere of what transpired in 1986 quite accurately. Now that the 30-kilometre exclusion zone is relatively safe for visiting, it has become a mecca of extreme tourism. The popular miniseries will no doubt attract many more visitors in the future. Travel guides are already putting together new routes, focusing on the areas depicted in the episodes. Reported by Tatar Krivenko for UATV.